You're in the moment now, and as you listen, you can feel yourself beginning to shift, to understand the subtle power of skills that goes beyond written words, beyond what's taught in classrooms or books. It's easy to imagine, isn't it? There's a world where things don't need to be hard, where the skills you need are already within reach, right there in your head. You can feel the power growing, like the way an athlete, a performer, a surgeon just knows their skills. They aren't on a piece of paper, they're alive inside of them, ready to be expressed. So let's take a moment to think about the idea. Never finding yourself in a fair fight. Imagine you're always ahead, always prepared, with everything you need, like a chess player who's thinking 10 moves ahead. You don't just show up and hope for the best. You plan, you prepare, and you make sure when you engage, you've already won. You know this on some level, even though you've never put it into words before. You don't need a one-size-fits-all approach, because the stakes are high, right? You're too smart to think that something simple will work in a complex situation. Your skills, they need to be dynamic, adaptable, like a musician who improvises, or a surgeon who thinks and acts in the moment, guided by thousands of hours of practice. Thousands. You get the experience, not from reading a book, but from doing. From being in it, feeling it, and understanding it at the deepest level. This is how the mastery happens. So think of the difference between someone who's read about medicine, who's studied the textbook, maybe watched a show like Grey's Anatomy, and someone who's performed the procedure over and over again, until their hands move automatically. It's one thing to read about it, but to do it, to live it, that's where the power is. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. And when you think of failure, you know it comes from 3 places. It's not just random. It's in the communication, in the observation, and in the behaviour. Communication, that's persuasion. Whether you're speaking or not, you're persuading. Right now, even in this moment, your mind is being persuaded to shift into a new way of thinking. Imagine how much you can do when you realise you're always communicating. And that is where things start to change. If you trace back any failure, you'll find a failure to persuade, to make someone see things in the way you do, to get them to follow your lead. And how often haven't you looked back at something and thought, I missed the red flags? Sometimes we don't see them in the moment. We're not aware enough, or we've been too caught up in something to observe. But when you know how to read people, when you know how to observe, not just with your eyes, but with your senses, things change. You see the signals, the patterns, the tiny movements that others miss. You know, when someone's telling you the truth, you know when they're holding back, and when they're uncertain. All of this, you know it because you see it. And once you start seeing it, you'll never miss it again. Behaviour is the way you move through the world, how you present yourself, how you hold your body, how you speak. People, they get a gut feeling about you before you even open your mouth. And those first moments, that's everything. It's the way you hold yourself, how you make them feel. Do you know how to walk into a room and have everyone's attention? Do you know how to make someone feel like they're the most important person in the world? Just by the way you speak. Just by how you make eye contact. Just by how you listen. These things matter, and they can be learned if you decide to learn them. When you hear someone speak about a level of mastery, you can feel the respect that comes with it. Think about the surgeon again, who put in the thousands of hours working, practicing, making every movement second nature. This is how they achieve their level. This is how you achieve mastery. Not by memorized facts, but by doing. The surgeon doesn't just read a book, they live it, they breathe it. And when you understand that, you understand no one gets to be a master without going through the process. It's simple, it's true, and it's a way of life. And then think of the person who watches a show, who reads a book, but hasn't done the work. They think they know. They think they're the expert, but you know better. You've seen it before. The people who talk like they know it all, but they've never done it. They haven't put in the hours. They haven't experienced the pressure, the real world. Now imagine if you had the confidence to know the difference, the confidence to say, I know what I'm doing. I'm not just a student of theory, I'm a practitioner, a master of my craft. People often think information is the key. They're addicted to learning, gathering data, but when it comes time to act, they freeze. They've read the books, they've watched the videos, but when it comes to actually performing, when it's time to use the skills, they're not ready. The best performers, they're not the ones who know the most. They're the ones who can read the room, read the person across from them, and make them feel understood, heard, and important. And here's something important to remember. 93% of communication is non-verbal. Think about that. 93% of what you communicate. It's not what you say with your words. It's what you communicate with your body, with your energy, with your presence. Language is a small part, but it's not the most important part. You can say all the right things, but if your body doesn't say the same thing, they won't hear you. Why? Because evolutionary, we've been communicating without words for millions of years. We've been reading body language, facial expressions, tone of voice for far longer than we've been speaking. This is wired into us deep down in our reptilian brain and our mammalian brain. These are the parts of our brain that process emotions, gut feelings, the unspoken messages that we pick up from others. Your mind knows how to read these signals, even when your conscious mind doesn't. And then, of course, you have the neocortex. This is where logic comes in. That's where you can create the stories, make the decisions that feel right, the ones that make sense. But even that logic, it's often just a story that you tell yourself to justify the emotional response that's in your body. You didn't just make the decision with your head, you felt it in your gut. And you felt it because your brain was already picking up on the things before you even knew it. That is where you get the sense of intuition, that gut feeling that something's off, that something is right. You can train yourself to feel that more, to tune into the signals, to trust that deeper part of you. And the more you do it, the more you'll see how it works. You'll become attuned, you'll make decisions faster, and you'll be more confident in your ability to navigate the world, to persuade, to communicate, to read signs. And that's what it's all about. So stay with it, even when it seems overwhelming. Just keep going. Skills, not information. Skills, that's what you're after. Skills you've practiced. Skills that become second nature. And soon enough, you'll find yourself not just ahead, but always in control.